Ladies and gentlemen, pleasure and honor being here, and today's presentation is all about the rule of law. And I will begin where my friend Mr. Trivedi left, that how social cohesion impacts national security and how nature of warfare has been changed by the powers be, and objective remains dominating the other countries, the nation states. And for dominating the nation states, all kinds of strategies and weaponization of everything is what is being done. While I discussed this with our friends and officers from the military and army, now these are the people who protect our borders, but does it mean the war is only happening at the borders? The war is happening within the social system, and ultimate control of the society is the objective. And for that, the law enforcement agencies are virtually doing or are supposed to do the same job as is being done by our security forces at the border, and similar handing over with each other, cooperating with each other is what is required to be seen and what needs to be done. And then we go to what is a law enforcement system lacking in fairness, jeopardizes the integrity of the justice it aims to protect. So what is the aim of a nation? The nation state aim is social cohesion. Nation states' aim is to bring peace and prosperity to its citizens. Nation states' aim is to believe in identity and Indian identity, for example. While we may be Marathas, we may be Gorkhas, we may be whatever, but the identity of nationhood is what makes us Indians, and that is what we are trying to protect. Now, internal security challenges. The internal security challenges will have all the vivisection as mentioned by Mr. Trivedi: caste, religion, color, gender, anything you can think of can be weaponized, and that's what law enforcement agencies are battling and fighting with, because the ultimate objective being subverting the human nature. If we go by the evolution of, without naming the countries, but we all are aware of the history, that ultimate aim of other people is controlling the resources. And those resources could be human resources, those resources could be the thought resources, those resources could be the material resources. And this exploitative mechanism which has been created by certain powers to retain that power, they will continue to do that and weaponize every aspect of social cohesion, social existence, and material resources. Now there comes that, can justice or can the law enforcers amplify that, and how justice can be enforced? Now, obviously, Mr. Swain coming from that background of enforcing justice, and I coming from the Justice Department, and then finally the practitioners, we all are stakeholders in that enforcement business, and then the quality of law enforcement becomes a challenge, and that is what contributes to the internal security of the nation. Now, pillars of national security or internal security, I would restrict myself to internal security today. National security will have many different kinds of things, but let's focus on internal security as that is the subject being given to me. There will be law enforcement agencies, which will be meaning citizens. Citizens are stakeholders themselves, and they become both eyes, ears, and also the subject matter of law enforcement. Justice, ensuring accountability, transparency, and fairness. And that accountability, transparency, and fairness applies to all of us. That we all need to be transparent in our conduct, we all need to be fair in our conduct, and there has to be an element of accountability. Fairness and quality. Now, fairness and quality becomes important because there are definitions which are non-negotiable. A terrorist is a terrorist. There's nothing called good terrorist, bad terrorist. Your terrorist is bad, my terrorist is good. Now, if a terrorist is operating to destabilize India in some other land which is far away from us, the person continues to be a terrorist. And that terrorism, on one side we talk of international peace agencies, on the other side we protect those terrorists, means this duplicity cannot be tolerated, and for that reason many a definition in our Bharat Nyaya Sanhita have been amended to meet these challenges today. Now, what are the challenges? The challenges in law enforcement would be political interference. We are all aware that there are political interferences which have happened over a period of time. which lead to destabilizing a nation, which are impeding the concept of justice. And I can even say that there is a raging controversy on the Lady of Justice, the statue which has been changed in the Supreme Court, and somebody is saying this is unilateral decision, but I would say this all is interpretation. And in interpretation, I would say there was a concept in earlier times, because this is again not a concept of Nyaya Devi or Nyaya from our Indian context, but from the Western perspective. The lady enforcing law had to be blindfolded and holding a tula, which we call balance, and holding a sword in the hand. And the concept was that law enforcers are going to be blind to who is before you, and is going to hold the balance so that the balance in the society is kept with the power of the sword. Now, in good thinking manner, as democracy impedes and many kind of influences overtake, the blindfold has been removed. We can go into the debate whether blindfold removal is a good thing. That means you're watching, and you're watching in a right way, that whatever wrong is happening in the society, because justice itself is a dynamic concept. It's not a status quo concept. You can't be blind to whatever is happening around you. And justice is not being implemented like an AI methodology. I'll go into that detail a little later. But justice needs to be dispensed with, knowing the circumstances and things. And instead of sword, a book of constitution has been handed over. Recently, I wrote a piece in which we said, out the there, out. Puniter is used to be the word, but now it's been changed to judicare, which means either you extradite or you punish, but it's been changed to either you extradite or you take the person to justice, judicare, which is justice. That means the justice system will decide whether a punishment is needed or not. And the justice system has to have quality, has to be fair. Now, my concept is that there cannot be any enforcement without the power of dand. Punishment is as much power, as important a part of enforcement agency as the book of constitution. So how you exercise the dand will come from the constitutional principles, but constitution by itself is, I would say lame. It has to have both elements, and within constitution one can further debate that within constitution lies the dand prakriya, the method in which the punishment needs to be given. So one can debate the latest development is positive, and I will go to the extent of saying that instead of changing it, we could have maybe blindfolded one eye, kept the other eye open, that while you are blindfolded halfway, you don't distinguish and discriminate between the people, but on the other side, you also see what is right, what is wrong. With one hand, you've given the constitution book, but we are used to having Devis with multiple arms. We should have also retained Talwar, and we should have still retained the sword, and we may have given her a mobile phone or internet as well to handle that. So we can give multiple arms and weaponize her further to deal with all the weaponization that is happening in the society. The training and capacity building of the law enforcers becomes as important, because sometimes we feel, and we know we are dealing with the army officers and military, and Indian military is very well trained, and we know that how training helps. So training is as important impact, will have as much important impact as technology. So technology, capacity building, training are all part of the same aspect. Resource limitations, 1.4 billion people. We are an economy of the north because we are the 5th largest GDP, but we are 1.4 billion people, so we are as much a country of the south, and that much resource allocation becomes a challenge. Technological gaps. Now in technological gaps, I really want to emphasize that are we only buying technology? And does that help? Does that make us more secure, or that makes us more vulnerable? Now, I mean, all of you are well trained at it, but just to bring the focus at it, because many a people, many a time we need to indigenize, and I'm a firm believer, firm believer. You keep saying that we have put so many cameras. And so many cameras, where are they sending the message? They're all operating on a system or a platform which is not controlled by you. Can that not be manipulated? We are talking about software. You can be managed by software, but you can also be managed by interceding and interdeletion, which is happening in the hardware part of it. Now, I think that's where, when we talk about technological gaps, we need to employ indigenous technologies, because technology itself is ending up manipulating our system and is also being weaponized, as we have seen many a times. I don't wish to go into detail, but that's a subject of another day. No law enforcement, I'm quoting myself. So no law enforcement agency can function effectively without the trust of its people. Accountability and fairness are the key, as they are the only dare to improve the internal security, but also align with the values of democracy. Now, we've all chosen to be democratic, and India chose to be democratic even from earlier times. We talked about Ganatantra, we talked about republics in the north, which means present-day Pakistan. Obviously, that was not Pakistan at that time, that was India at that time, Bharat at that time. Now, in this enforcement of fairness and accountability, the value of democracy lies, but we've also seen how so many agencies across the globe do instability act or act of treason or act of terrorism in the name of democracy. If you ask them what are they doing, they're establishing democracy across the globe. Now that is, as Mr. Trivedi also tried to touch the subject, I'm touching it a little more and taking it one step more, that democracy itself can be weaponized. And democracy itself can be used for causing the instability and destability processes. And then maybe the rule of law will have to deal with those circumstances also and those elements as well. Equal treatment under the law, obviously, no discrimination is what the Constitution says, what Indian kings believed. What Mr. Trivedi's story did not speak about, and I'm adding it, that on the Portuguese ship was a dog, and there was a Brahmin who went with the message. The ear of the dog was surgically removed, and ear of the Brahmin was removed, and the dog's ear was fixed on the Brahmin's ear and told that you take it further. That was our message. Now tell me, if that is the kind of war and that is the kind of people you're battling with, will you still stick to your Vienna Convention? Vienna Convention came much later. Our kings followed the rule that after sunset you will not attack. You will not kill the women, you will not kill the children, you will not burn the granaries, you will not harm the farmers. Those were the rules which were exercised within your country, so-called civilizational entity of Bharat. Now, civilizational entity of Bharat gave ample freedom to people to practice what they believe in, and yet few lines will not be crossed. Is the world following that today? And if the world is not following that, the kind of people you're dealing with, I guess the Kali, the Chandi will have to come back to their form and deal with those conditions. Accountability mechanism. The accountability mechanism lie both within and outside. But making others accountable is as much part of the justice dispensation process. Because you can say, my terrorist is a good terrorist and is a Khalistan. Come on, there is no Khalistan happening in India, okay? Now, if Khalistan is happening elsewhere, that needs to be dealt with, because your soil is being used for causing terrorism in another state, and which in the modern day terminology is called state-sponsored terrorism, because you are using it as a tool of your administration, as a tool of your own policy. And that is a policy which obviously no decent country, no democratically elected people appreciate. And that's where I think instead of confronting, we need to put this point across and tell that while we continue to engage, the method and message has to be absolutely clear, that there are no good terrorists, bad terrorists. And if snakes come to feed in your backyard and you feed them, they are going to bite you as well. And when they bite you, please don't blame us for that. Community engagement. Community engagement always remains a very important aspect of any policing job, any military job, any security job, because it is the stake of the community and the rights which we are protecting. Until unless we make them as part of our stakeholding capacity, we will not be able to enforce what we wish. Quality in law enforcement, obviously, I'm taking it further. We've gone over it. Integration, technology integration, but technology integration, I still want to add. In US, there has been a law. We all understand artificial intelligence. We all understand mapping processes, big data collection, facial recognition tools, and sometimes those tools are no longer tools. Those tools end up controlling us. And that's where all of us have to be accountable, and all of us need to understand that aspect, that while we use it as a tool, we do not become subservient to the tool. And I'm purposely citing one latest judgment and some development happened. So there is a black person who sees a cop and runs away in a particular area. Now, whatever has been fed to the machine responds. And the judgment comes that this guy needs to be punished for 6 years. His offense, he ran away looking at a cop. And this particular area is probably crime infested, dominated by people of colored skin. And then the person ends up getting 6 years imprisonment. Now tell me, is this a fair judgment? Anybody who thinks it's a fair judgment? Looking at a cop and running away. Should a person get 6 years imprisonment? No, obviously not. I mean, I may be scared. Being scared is not a crime. But that's what the machine has been fed. And ultimately, our biases creep into the machine. If we leave the thinking and if we leave the decision making to the machine, these are the results you're likely to get. I often quote another example that is gender related, though I hate to be perceived only as a woman, because I feel I work with men all my life and I'm as good as bad as other people are, and I should be treated as an individual, and battle has been around this. In gender, I feel, if you ask the machine, the description of a woman, blonde, fair, beautiful. And you ask the man, hardworking, good, decent. I'm like, come on, give me a break. And brave. I'm like, women are as brave. I have seen very timid men in my life, and I've seen very brave women in my life. I have seen absolutely corrupt women, and I've seen damn honest men. So qualities of a person are qualities of a person. Let machine not control us. But those biases creep into the machine and they control us, and obviously justice system will get equally impeded if we allow machine to do the decision making. Justice system's role, speedy trials, judicial independence, and special courts which have been established. These are the changes. I'm purposely not going into it because I think I'm running out of time. But there are timelines, digital evidence, rehabilitation, modernization, age of criminal responsibility, and a timeline set, 30 to 45 days. A verdict has to be announced. We all know how delay in justice is causing difficulties. Forensic evidence, using technology and tools. And there is a spelling mistake here. Anyway, dharm ev hato, dharm, this is wrong. I'm not going into it. Dharma rakshati dharma is where I'm ending. That it is the dharma which protects the dharma, and if we do not protect the dharma, then I have no business to seek nyaya. Nyaya has to have element of dharma, which means dharma is rightful conduct. Rightful conduct which is perceived by a particular society. And that conduct needs to be enforced through law, and that law enforcement will lead to justice. If people do not have a sense of justice in their mind, the cohesive society that we all dream of and we wish will not occur. And in that sense, I just want to cite a small example, and that's a very relevant example, that how justice can have different parameters. A child makes a flute because it was born with life. After the flute is made, another girl says, oh, this flute should come to me because I'm the only one who knows how to use it. I'm the only one who can play the flute. The second one comes and says, no, this flute should come to me because I have no choice. And my need to play is more. Now tell me, who should the flute go to? The one who made it, the one who can play it, or the one who needs it? And all these, from utilitarian to libertism to the sense-based, these are the concepts of justice. And the justice will be determined by the person dispensing it or the society seeking it, and that's where the context comes in, that what does the collective good demand? Collective good will decide what the law of the land is, and that's how the law enforcers will enforce, and that's where the justice will be dispensed. So let's keep our eyes and ears open and pray that this cohesive society, which has been created by our ancestors over a period of time, we are able to enforce justice, bring in social, political, and economic policies together, so that the justice happens in the form of social justice, political justice, and economic justice. Injustices are removed because these very injustices are perpetrated by others to subvert us. And that subversion, I want to give one small data, which all of you need to study. Within a span of 10 years, 1 decade, between 1891 to 1899 or beginning of 1900, in that 10 decade, India lost 17 to 18 million people. The entire Europe lost in 100 years, not even 500,000 people. That is the kind of subversion we have seen. So let's battle it together, not allow forces to subvert us, because ultimate aim is to control human and material resource, and for that, challenges exist both externally and internally. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.